Hello, and welcome to the Upper Schuylkill Valley Park's third video in the series Amazing Amphibians. And today we're going to be talking about toads. Now, toads are one of my absolute favorite amphibian, and it's one of the most misunderstood amphibians, so I'm kind of hoping after today's video you'll have a better appreciation for toads. Now, I've actually brought a toad with me today, and I'm actually going to bring him forward so you can get a good look at him here. Now, what I've brought is one of the most common toads to find in the United States. This is the American toad. And these guys go from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they pretty much go from the South to the North. This is the most widely distributed toad. These guys are very common, and they're actually one of the more adaptive toads, and so that's one of the reasons you find them in such vast spaces. Now, unlike frogs, the toad is born in water, but he doesn't stay in water. In fact, really the only time you start to see the toad around water is when it comes time to breeding. Otherwise, these guys tend to stay on dry land and just basically moist forest floors. They hide underneath logs, or they'll hide under rocks. But they're very common to find in very dry areas as well. In fact, toads can be found in deserts. So their skin, unlike the frog, tends to be very dry, and if you look, tends to be very bumpy looking. Now, one of the things that most people think when they see toads, and they see those lumps and bumps, that they think that those are warts. And toads actually don't have warts. This is actually a camouflaging for their environment, and it has nothing to do with warts at all. In fact, warts are caused by a virus. And so this toad does not carry a virus, and these are not warts that are on them. This is actually camouflage. In fact, desert toads will actually have warts, so to speak, that go from the eye down to the mouth. And the reason for that is when it does rain, it will channel water down to their mouth. It actually runs along those lumps and bumps and actually will run it straight into their mouth. Now, if you notice, he's kind of walking from my hand to hand. Toads, unlike frogs, don't tend to hop very much. They actually tend to walk more, and because of that, their bodies are built a little different than frogs. Frogs tend to have very, very short front legs and very long back legs, and very powerful back legs at that, and they can leap very far. The toad, on the other hand, tends to have slightly longer front legs and slightly shorter back legs than what the frog does. Even though his back legs are longer than his front legs, he tends to be a little bit shorter in the back leg and a lot longer in the front. And that actually allows them to walk more than actually hopping. Although they do hop, they tend to walk more. Now, the toad moves much slower than the frog, and so because of that, they could actually be picked off by many predators. So the toads have actually developed something. And we kind of talked about it in the second video series with the salamander, how there's a difference between venom and poison, and that amphibians have a poison. And actually toads secrete a poison, and it's actually found directly behind their eye. This large lump is actually a poison gland, and they secrete something called a bufotoxin. Now, it's not poisonous to where it's going to kill somebody. It's not even going to make you really sick. What it does is actually makes the toad quite unappealing to eat. It actually makes them taste very sour, but it also has some properties to it that can actually paralyze your saliva gland. So quite often, like dogs will pick up toads. They don't usually eat them because they release that bufotoxin. And then what happens is that they taste terrible, so the dog spits them out. But for the rest of the day, a lot of times the dog seems like it just can't stop salivating. And that's why that bufotoxin will actually cause them to actually salivate quite a bit. And so that will deter them from ever wanting to eat a toad again in the future. But otherwise, it's not overly toxic as far as it's going to kill anything. It's really just meant for their protection. In fact, there's only one animal that's really specialized at eating toads, and that's actually the hognose snake. Otherwise, there's really nobody that's specialized at eating toads. In fact, about the only thing that usually eats toads are birds. So herons will a lot of times eat them. Other birds, especially crows, will pick at toads, but not too many mammals eat them because they do taste so badly. They actually do protect themselves. Now, as I said, toads are just really, really unique animals. They do make a sound during certain times of the year and during their breeding season, and it actually sounds like singing. And you can hear toads for miles and miles when they start breeding, and you'll hear singing. And the woods will be lit up early in the morning and late in the evening with the songs of toads. And so toads are actually, well, they may not be the prettiest animal, they actually make one of the prettiest sounds, and it truly does sound like singing. Now, I hope you guys have learned to appreciate toads just as much as I do. As you can see, this is a very unique animal, and it has a very unique look to it. And so if you guys would tune in, our next video will be on the last of the amphibians we're going to talk about, which will be frogs. So stay tuned for video 4. Thanks and have a good day.